good morning to you. Welcome to Primetime Morning this Tuesday. A biotechnology firm in Singapore is claiming a revolutionary discovery. A CellResearch corporation says it has found an alternative source of stem cells.
So far, the most versatile stem cells are found in embryos, and the process of harvesting the cells has been controversial in some places because it involves destroying the embryos themselves.
And now researchers say the outer lining of the umbilical cord is a rich source of stem cells and is more easily accessible.
So this throws up many questions that we're about to put to the two men responsible for the discovery, Ivor Lim and Dr. Phan Toàn Thắng from CellResearch Corporation. Good morning to both of you.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to both of you. So explain to us what this first discovery means, actually. We've talked about umbilical cord blood, now we're talking about the outer lining. How significant is this?
Well, it's very significant because we've finally come across a source of stem cells which has no ethical problems. The yield of stem cells, which comprise both epithelial and mesenchymal stem cells, is extremely high.
What does that mean?
That means we can, the lining cells make up these epithelial cells, and the cells which make up the bulk of organs are the mesenchymal cells.
What is the mesenchymal? Is also the epithelial or the outer edge?
No, it's a deeper layer.
Deeper layer, right below the top.
Epithelials above and mesenchymals beneath that.
Okay. The epithelial cells make up of surface tissue like skin, cornea, intestine,
so
surface tissue.
An analogy would be this: the epithelial, the
mesenchymals.
The big M is right below it.
Just below.
Yeah,
that's
just
right.
below.
Yes.
And mesenchymal cell make like bone, cartilage, dermis of the skin.
Okay. So what you're taking is from those top two layers.
Of the umbilical cord.
Of the umbilical cord,
that's
correct.
right.
Okay.
And it's a very, very rich yield, and we've been able to extract tons of cells under the auspices of Dr. Phan, our chief scientist.
What makes this discovery so important as compared to the other sources that we've seen so far? Umbilical cord blood, we also have, embryos as well. How does it compare?
Fine.
Because, actually when we started, we tried to look for the new source of stem cell, which is have less or no ethical issues. So we start first with placenta. And then there's one day we got one bottle of placenta and one bottle of umbilical cord. And I tried with placenta and found it's quite messy, very difficult to process, to wash, and then a lot of blood contamination and so on. So I look at the umbilical cord lining, we found it very clean, very beautiful, and very easy to dissect, easy to wash, to decontaminate, and easy to isolate the membrane, because we are skin people. So we think just in terms of lining membrane, they must contain the epithelial cell and mesenchymal cells. So we apply the cell culture technique, and then we get it. So the significant is just, we have a lot of cells. The first thing, umbilical cord about 30 to 50 cm length. And diameter is about 1 cm to 2 cm diameter. So when opened up, you have a huge surface tissue of umbilical cord, and that's why you can harvest a lot of cells. Because one of the disadvantages of using the like bone marrow or cord blood to harvest mesenchymal cell is very low yield. It's not very high harvest, so your source of cell have a lot of tissue, and therefore you have a lot of cells. It's a high yield.
Dr. Phong, sorry to interrupt you there. My voice is going here as well. Excuse me. But let's talk about yields. When you take a look at one embryo and one umbilical cord, you get the same yield of stem cells?
No, we don't compare with embryos, actually, because we compare with another source of adult stem cells, like a bone marrow or cord blood, because embryonic stem cell considered most powerful stem cells. And most promising, but involve a lot of ethical issues.
Right, we know about those.
So
but if we were to sort of understand the equivalence that you get from...
Just to give you an example,
exactly.
If you have bone marrow, you will get one stem cell out of 10,000 cells extracted. For umbilical cord blood, it's one stem cell per 100,000 cells extracted. So our yield is in excess of 90%, i.e. 90% of all cells extracted are stem. So that is why we have this high yield factor we're talking about.
Dr. Lim, when you bring that up then, can you tell me what the comparison is with embryos then, since you know that figure?
Well, that's different because for an embryo, up to day 14, they actually sacrifice the embryo to extract certain cells from the developing embryonic cell mass. And so that is also a little bit variable. I think the count, it's about, they take about 14 to 20 cells, and it all depends. They take a little core of the cells, But at any rate, there are problems because it has to be achieved before 14 days. It still involves the sacrifice of an embryo, and they're still a little bit downstream from the ultimate stem cell, which when the sperm reaches the egg, and that's like the first stem cell from which all other cells are born, mother of all cells, so to speak.
How far are we into this research?
We've managed to differentiate these stem cells into cells of the skin, cells of bone, as well as fat cells. So we've managed to do a few. And if you can imagine, my arm has skin, underlying surface of fat, and bone. Of course, we don't have the architecture yet, but at least the basic cellular elements have been differentiated using this technique. And what I want to mention as well is because of the high yields, this will be a very, very logical alternative for banking in the future. So at the current time, we have cord blood banks, and we can easily implement banking of the umbilical cord lining because it is in such abundance that you can have essentially all cells for all potential problems which might arise from either tissue loss, disease, or tumor.
Okay, so although we didn't make a comparison on the quantity with the embryo itself, we did make a comparison on bone marrow. What about quality?
Perfect quality. Quality is very high indeed. And the beauty is when you can extract so much cells in the first pass, we don't have to keep growing more cells from the original cells. And therefore we don't have the problems, the drop-off from senescence. That's when the cells grow old. Because when they grow old, they start to mutate, and when they start to mutate, they could even transform into neoplastic cells.
When can we see clinical trials being started?
We aim for, actually now in collaboration with a few groups in India, in terms of banking. So we think, as Dr. Lim said earlier, we think it makes a lot of sense for banking because you take a umbilical cord anyway.
Right.
So you squeeze out the blood, and then they did not know about lining yet, so they dump the umbilical cord. Now we come in and say, okay, we process a new sort of stem cell for you, and then we do the banking. And next step we do, probably we target for the wound healing, which is our area, and it's quite
Wound healing.
Wound healing, like chronic wounds, like diabetic wounds and burns wounds and things like that.
And clinical trials, when can we see them being started?
We target for next year.
Next year.
In very near future.
Yeah, in near future.
We're just waiting to clear the phase 1 clinical trials, and after which we will be able to apply these directly to human beings.
What are the possible challenges you could face when it comes to, storing the umbilical cord outer lining?
The challenges are actually very few because the storage method is virtually the same as that of storing umbilical cord blood. And it is the processing which is challenging, and that is where we are patent protected. But what is actually quite unique about the process as well is we do not use serum to grow the cells, so we can take away risks like mad cow disease or bovine spongiform encephalopathy. And additionally, because in Singapore, at least most mothers are screened for HIV and Hep B, that really does mean that you know exactly what potential diseases these cells might have, which then, of course, expands the boundaries for transplantation in the future.
Where are you getting the money for this, and what does CellResearch do to get its money?
CellResearch is a purely privately funded company, and we have investors who are adequately funding us at the current time.
This first discovery, there's a lot of international interest in it, a lot of medical experts looking to this, if we could call it a revolutionary discovery. How are you handling this hype and attention on your studies and research?
Well, we're still keeping our day jobs, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of planning, and I think the way ahead really is to sit the scientific and business sides down to project over the next 5-10 years, and in the meantime get the word out and get our names known, and so get the interest in so we can plan for the future with many options.
All right. Thank you very much for that interview.
Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we've been speaking to Dr. Ira Lim and Dr. Phan Toàn Thắng from CellResearch Corporation on their discovery that outer lining of the umbilical cord is a rich source of stem cells. That is the latest in home news. News continues on Primetime Morning in just a moment. And do remember, even if you're leaving the house, no worries, you can still listen to us on TV Mobile 89.3 FM.